Hello everybody, and welcome to Soulshine Growers. And what we're going to talk about is, this is the first episode of hopefully many, and what this is regarding is when you buy land, what to watch out for, and where to buy land, what to look for, and most of all, what the general prices are of everything during the times of Bidenomics. So there's going to be quite a few topics that I'm going to cover here, hopefully, and I don't blame you if you get bored. This is boring stuff, but it could probably save you a ton of money, a ton of heartache, a ton of work. And you know, when you're new into an area that you haven't lived in, or you decided to purchase land where you haven't been before, there's some pitfalls you need to watch out for. And one of the things down south is that if people think you're a Yankee and you don't know what you're doing, and you may get charged a little bit more. Okay, so that may be some, I'm not saying that's everywhere, but it can happen, and it has happened. So let's get this series started out with where to look for land, and what a good course of action would be if you're looking to make a change. So obviously, if you're in states like New York, California, Washington State, or Oregon, you don't like the politics, the taxes are getting outrageous. Even Virginia, the taxes are getting pretty high, or they charge you just vehicle taxes, property taxes that you don't get anything for, really. The roads are still garbage. The government services are horrible. And you're looking to get out of that mess. Now, a couple of things that I can tell you is the reason my wife and I wanted to get out of Virginia is because of the tax rate. And we were in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is really close to DC, and it just seemed that our philosophy and mindset didn't mesh with a lot of people coming to the area from the DC, DMV as they call it, area. And the taxes, just everything, they nickel and dime you on everything. So it was time to pick up and leave. In addition to that, we wanted to start somewhat of a holistic farm, use nature, and do what we can to have a positive impact on the earth instead of a consumer aspect on the earth. So, having said that, we looked for land, and we found that the state of Tennessee is conducive to what we were looking for. So I've got to tell you, we bought a piece of land, and first thing you got to understand is, if you do this, I've seen and heard horror stories already in the short time that I've been here in Tennessee. And just to give you an example, is people from California, you know, they cash in their retirement saving, the PERS or whatever it is out there, and they're going to go start a farm and homestead and do all this, and you know, God bless their heart, I wish they could. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that you got to have money. You got to have a savings, you got to have equity in something that you can cash out. You've got to be able to have money available to do these things. But you know, and I'll give you a story on one of the situations. Was this gal moved out to Tennessee just recently from California. She had a really good paying job out there, in which you would need to live in California. And she moved to Tennessee, and just to a bare piece of land, okay? No water, no electricity, no housing, no shelter, nothing. So, and she thought that she might be able to get all this done in a couple of weeks, doing it herself. Well, you still have to do flooring. You still have to build shelter. You have to, even if you have an old camper that needs to be repaired, you have to know how to do these things. You can't just come into it and expect people to come and help you to get you on your feet. That's not how any of this works. You have to be self-sufficient and capable, you know, to a strong degree to be able to do this stuff yourself. You can't count on other people. And that's one of the big things about homesteading. You know, you can watch these YouTube videos and there's some fantastic people on YouTube that have a tremendous amount of knowledge, but it took a long time to get where they are now. You know, this doesn't happen overnight, and you have to have a certain frontier mindset to be able to do this. So enough harping on that. I'll tell you guys a little secret that I think is a secret on buying land. Okay, so this worked for us in Tennessee. We've got about 87 acres that we ended up with, and it was logging land. It was logged 3 years ago. Okay, the stumps are still in place. I hired a local guy to help me out with that, to start the land clearing and to put in the septic, and you know, that's not cheap. His labor rate is $100 an hour, which in some places that's very cheap, but not out here. And he's tearing up stumps. So you've got a guy basically sitting on a bulldozer or an excavator pulling out stumps at $100 an hour to start clearing the land so you can even get to farming it. The other option would be I lease the equipment myself and do it, but there's so many other things to do on the timeline that is set forth for us, which is 7 months, that I just don't have the time. I have the capability, I just don't have the time to do it all. So back to the land. We ended up, I'm going to talk money in this, and a lot of people don't talk money because there's a lot of variances in locations, and the services that you get. We're in a very rural county, and it's a small county that has timber industry, and we found a piece of land that I ended up paying $2,050 an acre for this land, which I deem to be a good price for almost 87 acres. So as we progressed through the purchase of the land, I realized that as soon as you start putting services on it, like power and water, and your property value exponentially increases. So I think the total cost out the door for 87 acres was $177,000. So what we and I think that's a fair price. It really is. It's bare land that needs work to get it going, get up and going. I'm not adverse to work, and that's that frontier mindset, that get or done kind of stuff. You need to be in a mindset to do it. You know, if you've never worked on land, you've spent, you know, the majority of your life sitting in a cubicle, this may not be the lifestyle for you, unless you have money flowing out of your ears and you can hire guys to do this. I don't know. This lifestyle isn't for everybody. So moving on, we were very fortunate to where I explored the property, and I actually found 2 springs on the property, and that alone just exponentially increased the value of the land already on base equity. But once again, I want to reiterate, and I can't stress enough, you got to have money to get into a project like this. Of course, there's a lot of variances, and if you're doing 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, you know, that's a big difference than doing 86 acres or 87 acres or 250 acres or 1,000 acres. So whatever you're getting into, I'm trying to speak in generalities here and give you the best possible information that I can, and warn you of the pitfalls without you having to invest a lot of money and finding out the hard way. So we found 2 springs on the property, which is phenomenal. The water's great. And the power, the next thing we got to is, well, we're going to need power. We're going to need a shop. My wife, she works remotely, and so we're going to need the internet. So we had a great success with this. We met the local engineer. He came out and he assessed the property where we're going to put the shop initially with living quarters, kind of a residence. And he spent a good hour out here. Really nice guy, Eddie Bentz from MLR, I think, local power company, and had a great visit. And later on that evening, he forwarded me an estimate of almost $18,000 to bring power into the property. Now that doesn't include a lot of things. Like a portion of it is going to be underground. It doesn't include the excavation, the trenching, the pipe, the gravel, the labor. You know, so you're probably looking at about $20,000 to bring power in here. To put a well on the property, it's going to be anywhere between $4,500, and that all depends on how deep you have to go and how much the overburden is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up, how to dig a well on the internet, on YouTube. Great videos on it. These guys are fantastic out here. You can get your YouTube PhD certification in almost anything. But digging a well can be anywhere from $4,500 to $8,000, $10,000 plus, depending on how deep they have to go. Now out here where we're at, the deeper you go, if you get below 250 to 300 feet, there's a pretty good chance that water is going to be smelling like sulfur. So, you know, that's just as good as not having a well, in my opinion. If the water's not clean and pure, I really don't want to have anything to do with it. But I get off track. So buying land, you're going to have the money. It was about $48,000 that came in at closing. That was paid. So and remember, I'm talking about almost 87 acres here, okay? So obviously if it's less acreage, it's going to be less money, less closing and all that. Right now we got an interest rate of about 7%, which during these times I'm pretty happy with. So you're looking at $48,000. You're looking at $20,000 more for power. You're looking at roughly $5,000 to $10,000 for the well, and you still don't have shelter on the property, you know, or the fencing to show your boundaries, or the, you know, even little things like no trespassing signs, put it up, or no hunting signs, whatever you need to do. All these little things, they substantially add up after a few months of doing this. You know, not to mention the water tank. I ended up getting a 500-gallon water tank to help sustain this camper a little bit better. And just a water tank alone was $860-something through Lowe's. Fortunately, Lowe's delivers out here. Ended up getting fencing that'll cover maybe 200 or 300 feet. That was $1,500. Can you do this stuff cheaper? Yeah, you can, but it's still going to be pretty close to that ballpark. So anyway, back to the land. If you find a nice parcel that you like, and I kind of think this was a trick that I figured out, was that if you obtain the logging land, they need to get it off their books, so they're willing to negotiate a little bit, and because they don't want to pay taxes on it. And speaking of taxes, that's something else. This county, for almost 87 acres, the county wants $500 annually in property tax, which I think is more than reasonable, especially coming from Virginia. And having lived in Texas, Idaho, and unfortunately California. So the taxes are not bad, but if you do find a parcel of logging land, remember they have to keep it off their books. Unless there's a competitive price war or something, you're bidding a bidding war with other people, then you can usually get the logging land pretty good price. But you're also inheriting, like I said, the stumps. We got it 3 years later, so there's weeds and everything that has overgrown again, which I really don't mind, because my idea of it is that I can, once the stumps are removed, I can brush cut all that and mulch it back into the ground and start rebuilding the soil for the farming portion of this, because it's going to take a few years to get the soil back up to par. So buying land, remember, logging land, they have to get it off the books. They're willing to negotiate more. It's going to take money. If you don't have the resources, don't think you're going to move somewhere and start homesteading and counting on everybody around you, because that's not how this works. You have to be independent, self-sufficient to a large degree, okay? Land improvements, figure out, see, we had a nice little surprise with the power company that when the engineer, Eddie Benz, he came out, and he also told me that they have fiber that they run. And trust me when I tell you, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere, okay? It's like a geographical oddity. I'm 20 minutes from everywhere. 20 minutes from just about every big town around here, 20 minutes from restaurants, 20 minutes from gas stations. Everything's about 20 minutes. So even if it's 45 minutes, locals say it's still 20 minutes up that way. which has its own charm to it. Anyway, land improvements. So the fiber was really exciting, but that's an additional expense where they have to build the code and lay in 1-inch pipe next to the power line. It can't be ran together, especially underground and that kind of stuff, you know. Another thing I can't stress enough is when you move somewhere and you want a homestead or start building a farm or build your house even, hire local and get to know the local people. Spend a little bit of time with them, spend a little bit of money with them, because it might save you thousands in the long run. They'll tell you who to contact, who you need to reach out to, who your neighbors are. When I came out here, the guy that's helping me with the land development, my next door neighbors are his distant cousins, so he already knew who they were, and that's, you know, that helps, because they're also great people, and when they come by the property, they'll keep an eye out instinctively, you know, just like you should for them. So hire local when you can, go into town, get to meet the people. I've been here 2 weeks now, and I can tell you that everybody I've met has been good people. They really are. They're very nice, generous, and offering help and those kind of things. Now, then again, you know, be careful, don't make yourself too much of a burden starting out. Actually, ever you shouldn't. So, farming. My wife and I, we're going to do a little farm here. It's not going to be anything bigger. It's Soulshine Growers. We're going to specialize in orchards and honey meadows, flower meadows, clover meadows, that kind of stuff. Just about what everybody else is doing on the internet, on YouTube. So if you have any questions regarding what I talked about today, go ahead and please leave it in the comment section, and try to be positive about it. Let's stay on the high vibration side. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, but I can only answer to what I know, and this is regarding the land purchase in Tennessee. Local government seems to be pretty efficient, and let's see, how can I be politically correct about this? The local governments here, they're glad to have you, and they won't give you the runaround like they will in bigger counties that really don't need your money and really don't want you there, or see you as a number besides a person. So let me see, we've covered government, taxes, buy land, logging land, land improvements, hire local, and then the basic little farm what we're trying to do here. Thank you for watching. Like I said, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you think this can help somebody you know, or is good information, please let people know about it. Thank you very much, and take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.